Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tableau Conference, and welcome to our session. I'm Stephen Lin. I'm a developer at the Tableau Connectivity team.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and I'm also a developer on the Tableau Connectivity team. And this is our talk, Connector Plugins, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Taco. Now, you may be wondering, just based on this title, what exactly is a taco? And a taco is a delicious Mexican dish you can sometimes buy from a truck. Although this is Tableau Conference, we should probably talk about it in terms of Tableau. And basically, a taco is a new way of adding a Tableau connector to the Tableau product. It is the extension for a file that contains that you can just drop into the My Tableau repository connectors folder, and Tableau will load it automatically. The T stands for Tableau. The CO stands for connector. The A is just so we can call it a taco file. And that joke, I was told by the extensions team here at Tableau that we need to make it to line up with the T-Rex file. And the Tableau Connector SDK, which you use to make tacos, is part of Tableau's extensive suite of developer tools. You can find out all about it at developer.tableau.com there at the bottom. And it's a bunch of APIs and SDKs you can use to extend and customize your Tableau experience. We're talking about one of the Connector SDK, one of the portions of the data connectivity developer tools, where you can take any data wherever it is and bring it into Tableau's warm, loving embrace. And there you go.
Yeah. First of all, let me have a short introduction for this session. First, what problem we are trying to solve with the taco for Tableau? We all know Tableau helps people see and understand data. But what if your data lives somewhere Tableau cannot connect to currently? So that's how Tableau Connector, or Taco, is here to help. So by the end of this session, you will reach this goal. You will be able to know what a taco is. You will know what a taco contains. And you will know how to package a taco and how to test a taco before you share with other people. And finally, if you have any problem with when you're building your taco, you know how to get help. So a taco is simply a packaged Tableau connector. It's packaged to a single file. It's signed, and you can share with your partner or share with other Tableau user, and they can, because it's signed, they can trust. This is from a trusted source. So I will show you a short demo how a taco works on Tableau desktop. So this is Tableau 2019.4. We don't have a SQLite connector on Tableau Connector. So let me prove there's no one. You can search for SQLite. Nothing shows up. And I have a pre-built SQLite extract taco, which is a extract-only SQLite connector. If I drop this one to my Tableau repository connectors directory, and restart Tableau, let's see what happens. See, we have a new connector shows up. It's called SQLite extract by taco SQLite extract only in Taco by example. This is an example we built. And you open it, you can actually connect to a SQLite file. Okay, let me switch back. Okay.
So now that you've seen the final product, the final taco, let's talk a little bit about how you build it. And you build it with the Tableau Connector SDK. And the SDK is a bunch of documentation, of samples, a Python-based test harness, and a packaging tool that you can use to create and test an ODBC or JDBC-based connector that can be used natively in Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server. And you can find this at a public GitHub repo. You can see that at the bottom. I actually don't know how to use a laser pointer, sorry. And that is a public repo that you can go to right now. And you can start building tacos that will be able to be loaded into Tableau right now. Although not right now, please wait until after the presentation. The laptop may bother your partners next to you. And a couple things to note about tacos in general. Right now, tacos will be loaded in Tableau 2019.4, in Tableau Desktop, and Tableau Server. At the moment, we do not have support for Tableau Prep or Tableau Online, although we are looking at that for the future releases. And you also will need an ODBC or JDBC driver to make one of these connectors. It does not natively connect to, for example, a Cube data source or a REST API unless you build a driver that uses ODBC or JDBC. And also, just about this presentation, we're going to be touching upon basically every step and every component you need to make a taco. But because we're trying to fit this into an hour-long session and we have some Q&A at the end, there are going to be some things that we gloss over, some things that we don't get into specifics about. And the best place to get specific information about the Tableau Connector SDK is that link at the very top. We have a bunch of documentation, including a getting started page and step-by-step instructions for each step. So if there's anything that we've glossed over here, that is the best place to find it. We also have samples. We have a sample for each component that includes annotations, and we have entire sample connectors, one of which you've already seen, the SQLite extract only, and another Postgres ODBC that is an implementation of a Postgres connector in the SDK framework that we'll be looking more deeply at for the rest of this presentation. And there are some prerequisites before you get started developing a taco. And what you'll need is Tableau Desktop 2019.4 or later, which means Windows or Mac. That is because for the test harness, there is a file included in the Tableau Desktop installer that you need to use. So while the taco can be used on every platform Tableau supports, Linux, Windows, or Mac, to develop effectively, you do need Windows or Mac Tableau Desktop. I already talked about that you need an ODBC or JDBC data source. For a test harness, you do also need the test data loaded in an active instance so we can run queries against it. And it is also recommended that you have some familiarity with the XML markup language and the JavaScript scripting language, because we use both of those to make the connector. And one of the core values of Tableau is that we use our own product. And in terms of the Connector SDK, that means we have been using this framework to make connectors that have been included in Tableau. We have also given an early version of the SDK to certain partners, like Databricks, Alibaba, Kairos, and Qubel. And they have made connectors that have also been included in the newer versions of Tableau. For example, 2019.4, we added 5 new connectors. And what this means for you is that the connectors made with the SDK are just like all the other connectors. They have the same features You can publish them to a server that has the data source. You can create an extract with them. You can even make an extract-only connector. And you can use initial SQL, all the features. And we know because we have made native connectors using this framework. It also means that the SDK needs to be easy to use, well documented, and powerful, because if it isn't, it'll make our lives harder as well as your lives harder. And so now that we've gotten most of the bookkeeping out of the way, let's move on and start building our connector.
So you get the tools you need to build a taco. So next, let's show how to actually build one. So a Tableau connector contains a bunch of files. Don't worry about so many crowded slides. We will go through each of files in depth later. So when you build a connector, the best way to think about this is object-oriented programming in software engineering. So it would be hard to build a Tableau connector from scratch. What you are fortunate is you can build your connector based on over 10 years of the data connectors we built within Tableau. So your connector will be extension of existing Tableau connectors. You just specify what's the difference. You can customize your connector. So the first component of the entry point to a connector is the Manifest.xml. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is an example of Manifest.xml. Let me show you more details of this file. So the first element in this XML is called connect plugin. You give the you have a class attribute. Class is a unique key to your connector. The class attribute shows up in your TDS file, in your workbook. It's the same class we use for on different Tableau files. And superclass, here you say the superclass is ODBC. So Tableau will know your connector is built up on generic ODBC connectors. So if any of those behavior you don't specify in your connect plugin or Tableau connector, we will fall back to use the base behavior of the base class. And you can give your connector a version. So that's a good idea. When you have a version number, then when you upgrade, people will know which version is newer, and they will know which versions they should use. And display name is what we show on the connection pane. What you just saw, the SQLite extract owning connector. That's the connector name. The next block is the vendor information. We want to give you credit when you create a Tableau connector. So, and also the user, Tableau user, want to know you created this amazing Tableau connector. So in these elements, you can specify what's the name of your company or individual who created this amazing connector. And also you can give the user support link. So this link will show up in the error dialog, in the connection dialog. So you can have the user click and goes to your support web page. The next part of the Manifest.xml is the customization part. So just as I said, your connector is based on generic ODBC, but what's the difference from generic ODBC? You can specify here. This is customization we call capability customization. Basically, the capability customization let you specify what's the capability of your database server. It's lots of capabilities. It's not possible for you to remember all of them. So we documented all the capabilities we support on the SDK page. And also, if you're familiar with the Tableau TDS file, the data source file is the same, or TDC file. Tableau data connection customization is the same capabilities we used. Yeah, so we talked about the manifest, but that is the entry point to the Tableau connector. So lots of time, you want customize the connection dialog. We give you the capability to customize the connection dialog. So that's the TCD file. So on the left, this is an example of the customized connection dialog. Let me show you how you actually customize those fields. The Postgres ODBC, that's the name, come from the manifest file. And we give you the credit, who created the connector. So that's by company name. That comes from the vendor information block in the XML. The support link information goes to the bottom of this connection dialog. And here is how you can customize the connection dialog fields. We have example of two fields here. One is a port. You can specify what's the prompt for this port field, what's the default value. And here is what authentication you support. So in this example, we support basic authentication and username and password. So the dialog will show username and password fields. Yeah.
If you just wanted to specify the port and not give the option to change it, you can do that in this file, or is that always going to be
Say it again,
So if the port information, if you didn't want to give them the option, you just wanted to set the default value and not have that field on the form, can you do that?
Yes, but the best practice is you don't show it in the connection dialog at all. Right, because it's hard-coded.
And so we'll have some time at the very end for questions, so please hold questions until the end.
And here is a kind of Boolean setting you support SSL connection or not.
So at this point, the connector we've made shows up on the connector list and has a connection dialog. So it looks like a normal Tableau connector, but it doesn't actually work yet. And so now we'll go and actually give the connector the guts it needs to actually connect to the database. And we start that with the Tableau connection resolver, second from the right here. And the connection resolver is basically when Tableau connects to your database and when it queries data sources, it asks your connector to perform certain actions. And the resolver, you implement up to 4 of those actions. It is like everything we've looked at before, implemented in an XML file, this time in the .tdr file. And it contains implementation for those 4 methods. The connection builder and the connection properties methods are used to take all of the information that your user put into the connection dialog and format that in a way that your driver will understand. We will then pass it in. The connection builder is required for all connectors. However, the connection properties is specific to the JDBC connectors. And if you want to see an example of that, just like we have the Postgres ODBC sample on the SDK that we're looking at now, we also have a Postgres JDBC connector example. And then we also have a set of attributes that each connection has, a connection being, just put simply, one connection between a certain user account and a certain server. And the connection normalizer will build a list of those required attributes and make sure that there's no attributes that aren't supposed to be there and that all attributes that are supposed to be there are added in. And then the connection matcher, given 2 connections, will return true if they are equal. And again, you don't need to write this down. There will be no quiz at the end of this. This is all documented on the SDK documentation in the API reference section. And these are implemented in one of 2 ways. At the top here, you can see that for this example, the connection builder is implemented in an external JavaScript file. And how this works is you write the method in this file, and it has a very specific parameter set and a very specific return value. And then it will spin up a sandbox JavaScript instance. There's a lot of things that we restrict you from doing. You can't import libraries, for example, and that is because security reasons. We don't want you to run too many very scary things. And another thing to note is that because we're spinning up a JavaScript environment in the Tableau code, that when you make a JavaScript script, it is a little bit slower and a little bit less performant than Tableau native code. So if you have the opportunity when building your connector to fall back to the Tableau native code, it is highly recommended that you do so. For example, the connection normalizer here, instead of being implemented in JavaScript, you build a list of required attributes right in XML in this format, and then Tableau's native code will take care of that for you. And you also note that we only implement 2 of the methods I talked about in this Postgres ODBC example. That is because connection properties, again, is only for JDBC connectors. And as we mentioned earlier, all connectors are based off of a superclass and inherit all attributes. They also inherit these methods. So if the connector you're subclassing from, if that method will work, then you should use that. And with connection matcher, the default implementation very simply just checks every attribute in the connection against the other attribute. And for 99% of connectors, that is perfectly fine. So we don't implement it in the connection resolver. You fall back to Tableau native code. And it's so rare that a connector actually implements a connection matcher that I debated whether or not to include it on these slides. And so the next component that lives at the bottom of the TDR file is the driver resolver. And this is an ODBC-only concept. And what it does is it defines the rules that Tableau will use to get your driver. In this example, what's the, oh, that one, thank you. In this example, we're casting a very wide net. We're using regular expression to grab any driver whose title starts with PostgreSQL Unicode. That is because for this example, we don't really care what version of the Postgres driver you're using. You can use exact matching to really make sure that you're getting the specific driver you want. You can also define a minimum version. And you can define different rules to make sure that you get a different driver on each platform if you have a different Linux driver than Windows driver, for example. Now that we've finished our TDR file, our connector will actually connect. However, it may not be useful because all we've done is made sure that it can connect. We haven't actually talked about the queries that your connector will run, and that is defined in the dialect definition. So when you're making a visualization in Tableau and you drag your dimensions and measures onto that visualization, Tableau will generate a query. And this query is generic against all databases that Tableau connects to. However, it will not actually work if you just throw that query. So what the dialect does is it translates, it maps all of the Tableau functions to functions that your database will understand. It is defined in XML, and if you look at the sample folder and you see the full dialect, it is a little bit overwhelming. There is a lot of functions that Tableau defines. Luckily, just like the connector in general, dialects use object-oriented concepts, and so that each dialect you make with the connector SDK, it inherits from a dialect that already exists in Tableau. So if your database uses a protocol similar to, say, MySQL or PostSQL, you can use that dialect and inherit all of those mappings, and then just tweak the dialect when you have certain syntax errors that come up. And if you're wondering, you don't have to just go and run a bunch of queries yourself and figure out what is broken. In a couple slides, Stephen will show you our testing harness. But before that, let's actually try out the connector. So when you're in development and you're developing your connector, it's a little bit of a pain to make a change, package your connector, check it in Tableau, and then make a change and do that same thing again. So there is a command line argument that you can use right here, dconnect plugins path, that you can point to the folder that contains your loose collection of files, and Tableau will load that in just like it would a Taco file. So you can load it in Tableau, see what's wrong or what's right, make a change, and then when you restart Tableau, that change will be picked up right then and there. So I've just pointed it to the samples, and we'll be able to see the PostgreSQL ODBC implementation that we've been working on. Once Tableau loads, there we go. So at the very bottom here, we have that PostgreSQL ODBC example that we've been looking at. And this is not from the Taco file. This is just directly from the loose files. So we can make a change, close Tableau, reload it, and we'll see that change right away. And
Okay, now you have built your Taco. So you want to test it to make sure it works fine with the Tableau and it works with your database. So to test your Taco, we have a few ways. So we have a documented manual test procedure in our SDK, and we also offer automated test tool we call TDVT, which is a Tableau data source verification tool. It is the exact tool we use internally to test our own data connectors. So it's a Python-based tool. It uses the connector, actually do live connection to the database and do all the queries Tableau usually generates and compare the results. So here is one example of the TDVT running. So the first, you run those with command line with this tool, and then here's the result it gives you. And also within the SDK, we already included this Tableau workbook to visualize your test results. So for each test, you will be able to see what's the generated SQL. So if any of those tests fail, you can copy that SQL and use the other tool to query against your database to see what's not working. And you can also see the actual results you get from your server and what's the expected results Tableau expects. And of course, you will see if there's any Tableau generated any error with when using this connector, you will see it from the log. And let me show you a quick example how this tool runs. So I have already set up, it's all, how to set up TDVT is all documented in the Tableau Connector SDK GitHub project. So I have already set up on my laptop. So this is the command, the Python to use the TDVT module and run the Postgres ODBC tests. That's the plugin we just showed. So it first connects to the database. It already runs a few test cases. And we won't wait until it finishes because it will take a few minutes. We can come back, see the results. Yeah. Let's talk about how to package the connector.
So at this point, if you've been following our steps, we've built the connector. We've tested it using TDVT. We've realized that there was something broken. We fixed the connector. And now we're ready to package it for sharing with other people. Because at the moment, we've got this, if you're using the taco analogy again, we've got this big bowl of delicious filling, but no real way to share it. And so what we need is a tortilla. And because we're talking about Tableau connectors, what we need is the packaging tool we include with the SDK. It's a small little command line program. It's pretty easy to set up and install. And it will package and sign your connector, take all those loose files, and package it into a single .taco file. And it also does a little bit of XML validation. However, a connector that passes this validation and is packaged into a taco is not guaranteed to work. We only check that the XML isn't broken and that the files exist. There's a lot of things that the packaging tool can't check that may mean a connector is broken or doesn't load. And so the best way to think of it is the packaging is the very last step. If you package it, you already know that this connector works. And so once you package it, you need to also make sure that the connector is signed by a trusted public cert. And the reason for that is that Tableau connectors are sensitive parts of the Tableau code. It deals directly with retrieving your data, and it also deals directly with user credentials. And so because of that, we want to make sure that when a taco is loaded in Tableau, the customer is guaranteed that that taco was built by the person who says it was built by, and that the connector has not been tampered with since it was packaged, and that that certificate hasn't expired. And the way we check this verification is using JAWS Signer. So that means that that the user needs to install Java. If they don't have it installed with a taco file, we will prompt them to do so. And if it is not actually signed, we throw this error message when you try and connect. And so once your taco is signed by a public cert that is trusted by the Java runtime environment, then you're done. Your taco file will work in any version of Tableau 2019.4 desktop or server. And if you're testing and you want to skip this verification and have Tableau load any old taco, you pass it to it, you can use this long command line option. Again, that is documented on the SDK, so you don't have to write it down. You just copy and paste. That's what I do. And at this point, because we have built the connector, and we can see here the TWT has finished and told us that there are no failed tests, we can actually show you guys that this taco works and looks exactly like any of the other connectors. So if we open our connectors folder again, and we take this Postgres odbc.taco file, drag it into the connectors folder, and while you will have signed the taco with something that is trusted, we did not actually do that for this taco, so we're going to do a little bit of a cheat and use a bash script to add that verification skipping. Come on, Tableau, load. There we go. Now we can see, once again, we've got PostgreSQL ODBC from the taco file. We can click on it, and this is not just this is a full-fledged Tableau connector. We can connect to it. We can add initial SQL, sign in, and then do whatever we want. We can go to our viz and start randomly clicking things and seeing what amazing visualization comes out. I clicked too many things. All right. And now that we've shown you the taco, let's talk a little bit about getting help.
Yeah, in a pretty short session, we talked about all the way from the beginning, how to get the tools, and how to build the taco, and how to test. So when you go back, build your taco, you might have some issue. How to get help. So first, when you are here during the Tableau conference, you can go to the Tableau Showcase booth. We have a Tableau SDK booth there, and Patrick and I will be there most of the time, tomorrow and Friday. You can ask us questions, and by the end of this presentation, we will have some time for Q&A. I know you might not start building right away, so when you go back and build the taco, if you have any problem, here is a way. How can you get further help? The GitHub Tableau Connector SDK project is the kind of a hub for this SDK. You can get help documentation. You can ask questions there, and we monitor those questions every day. You can see the button. You can, if you have questions, you can submit a new issue. We monitor that every day and try our best to help you. Of course, some of the time, we might not do our best of our job. John actually sit here. He had a presentation about his experience, how to get help. So you might, if you have not watched that, you might watch the recording of that session. And you can also ask in the Tableau community developer forum, because the problem you met might be met by somebody else, and they already solved the problem. So Tableau has an amazing community. You can get help from there. And also, you can reach us, developers, directly by sending us email, connectsdk@tableau.com. So we will get back to you. So whenever you ask a question or request a new feature, please let us know why. That if you let us know why you need that feature, it helps us to prioritize those feature requests in our backlog, and we can also help you better when we understand why you ask that feature or ask that question. Again, Tableau Connector SDK is part of a Tableau developer program. So Tableau developer program, if you have not heard about it, you can go to the website, developer.tableau.com. The program offers free development site on Tableau Online, and you also get early access to Tableau APIs, not only in the connection SDK, we have embedded JavaScript SDK, we have newly announced the Hyper API, all of other extensions, and we also have WDC, of course. When you join the Tableau developer program, you will be able to engage with the Tableau developer team. And you will be first to know some of the new features Tableau is going to offer. And you will be joining an amazing community. And remember, the T-Rex is our mascot for Tableau developer program. And here are the resources Tableau developer program offers. The GitHub project on Tableau has is all under the Tableau group. We also have a Tableau developer tools, which is the documentations on Tableau website. And we have a Tableau YouTube channel. You can watch the videos on YouTube for the developer program.